Okay, so pretty much what I'm going to be covering in this video is next week the Mazda is going to be at Sebring, and it's going to be a 45-minute race, and I am still pretty new to the car, so I thought it might be an opportunity to combine a little bit of a track guide in amongst with a bit of a how I modify a setup to suit another track once I have a base. Now, I think it's reasonable to do that with the MX-5 because of the number of options that you have. And cars that are similar to the MX-5 in that sense, I would probably say are cars like the Mustang and others, which aren't necessarily so aero dependent. Because I know when you're doing a setup for something like a GT3 or a Daytona prototype, the aero has a much bigger influence, and in terms of getting your aero balance right between straight line speed and cornering ability, that's much more influential really than the handling balance. Well, not the handling balance as such, but more the mechanical grip side of things. Whereas in the lower cars, such as the MX-5 and the Mustang, I mean, for example, I rarely ever change my Mustang setup. I've been using the same one for 3-4 seasons now with minor tweaks, and the minor tweaks only really come in when either we have like a really big league race or something, which I dedicate a bit more time to making a setup for, or there's a new build which alters fundamentally how the car drives. But what I thought I would do is given that this is going to be my second week in the Mazda, what I would do is I would show you guys how I go about transitioning across weeks, and how I go about, one, learning the track, two, learning how the car behaves on the track, three, any adjustments I make, and four, really just, well, it's again learning, but essentially what I will do first is I will always try and drive the car in the default weather, because it's normally for the road courses it's pretty much as hot as it gets. There's a couple of exceptions. For example, Okayama gets considerably hotter than the default settings, but for most of them the default is normally hotter, so it's normally a worthwhile thing to learn the track and learn the car in the hot weather, because it's much easier to transition from hot to cold than cold to hot, because you can have a setup that's great in cold weather, but then its flaws become pretty obvious in hot weather, or certain corners become much more difficult, and so on. In fact, there's actually a couple of good ones on Sebring which that's really very true for. And the other thing is that setups, if you make your setups in hot weather, the hot weather is nowhere near as forgiving as cold. I am personally of the belief that there's pretty much three sort of temperature windows within iRacing. There's the point at which it gets so cold that the setup is almost irrelevant, and the car is just completely on rails, and there's nothing you can do to unstick it. And then there's sort of a window in the middle, which the setup makes probably the most difference. And then there's the upper side of that, where the car is basically just not gripping the track at all, and you're just basically wheeling it. I pretty much define the you're basically wheeling it point as 50 centigrade or higher, and the it's so cold you have insane amounts of grip as being about 25 C or lower. But anyway, I'm just gonna boot up iRacing here. Now, the other thing I'd like to say is this is literally my first couple of laps here in the MX-5, and I've done this on purpose to really show how I do deal with this transition and how I go about learning a new track. And well, it's not a new track, but it is a different car to what I'm used to on this track. Now, I have already mentioned the 45-minute race. Now, I know there's been some discussion in the forum with regards to whether the fuel will actually be limited or not. So I'm going to work on the assumption for now, because I haven't heard anything otherwise, that it will be. But if not, I'm going to run a couple of laps with more fuel anyway. But first I need to do some ice speed, well, some laps, to then look at ice speed and see, and then to back calculate how many laps there's going to be and so on. So if we just go to the garage quick, you can see that it's basically my Brands Hatch setup that I uploaded to the forum. The only change I did make is I went for more camber when I was basically trying to chase some lap time in the time trials. I really do think 3 degrees is extreme, but we'll go with it and we'll see what happens. Also, 7.6 liters is definitely not enough. So let's go with 16.2 and see where that leaves us first. Just had to adjust the crossway there, because even if it's 50.1, it just annoys me that it's not exactly 50. The one thing I haven't checked is I didn't actually check what the track temperature was, but I believe it should be 44 or 45 degrees C. Also, some of you will be glad to know that I have now fixed my squeaky throttle pedal, so that will no longer be an issue. Okay, so we can definitely probably take a wider line, and maybe, I don't know, maybe brake a fraction later. I'll try earlier first and see what happens. But it felt a bit too soon there. This is a corner I'm particularly worried about, although in the MX-5 it's probably okay. Yeah, it seems to be. But in things like the Daytona Prototype, that can be a really scary corner if the weather's particularly hot. Someone made mention of the fact that those apex cones through the S's back there are getting removed in a track update, and I'm slightly disappointed by that because I like those cones. They do actually provide useful apex markers. Okay, so the back's a little bit uncomfortable through there. The other thing I've noticed is that I noticed people have tendency with this car to be running the dampers completely maxed out. I've been running mine at 6, and I've been pretty happy with that. But I don't know how that's going to work out here. Because obviously there's a lot of corners here which are quite hard on the dampers, particularly the last turn and the first turn actually. Okay, so pretty much what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna be doing just a 5-lap run, because that'll then give me what my average fuel usage is on the I-speed, and then I'll back calculate out based off my lap times how many laps we're gonna do in the race. I strongly suspect that this is basically going to be a 45-minute drafting war. It's even at Brands Hatch, it was impossible to escape, and it's got comparatively very short straights. Fourth seems a little high for that turn. Really bogged on the straights here. Okay, I tried braking at the 1 marker last time, but I think I was just a touch too late. The back feels like it's trying to escape just a fraction through there. Yeah, I would definitely say 4th gear is right through there. Okay, so for the moment I'm braking at the 2 cone there and then going down to 2nd. Really not happy with my line through there at the moment. Here I'm braking at the 2 cone and down to 3rd. What I would say is you really don't want to hit that curb on the inside, otherwise it'll definitely try and send you for a spin. Now here at the 2 cone again, down to 4th, and carried probably a fraction too much speed. Gonna try 3rd through here this time. Miles from the apex though. Definitely got a better run out to the straight. It's probably got to be a bit braver into the final turn here. Brake at the 1 again. Just control the back, but I've definitely gone too deep and gonna lose a lot of time. See, for turn 1 there, I always like to use that little dip in the wall on the outside as my marker. That was a better run out onto the straight there. You can also cut a lot of that sort of that right-left kink. There you go. That's pretty much showing exactly what I was saying about that curb there. I really did used to hate the previous version of this car, but I really like this one. You've got a lot more. Well, I've got a lot more confidence in how it actually handles. The slides seem catchable. What I didn't like about the old car is it seemed to sort of just roll onto its bump stops and then just basically sit on them as it threw you off into a horrible slide. This is the little dip in the wall. There. Really terrible line through turn 1 at the moment. Car just feels like it's sort of lacking a bit of response. It turns in well enough, but then afterwards it's a bit sluggish. Getting too close to that curb again. Still really not happy with line through both the final turn and the first turn. Okay, so this will be the last lap. It's a bit better, but I'm just having to fight the car too much. Still not a great line through that turn. Not one of my worst, but certainly not one of my best either. It's a better line through the final turn though. Okay. And we'll just pull up and take a quick look at the garage. And also I'll calculate out what my fuel usage is going to be. Okay, so pretty easy way of doing this. I will basically take what the minute sort of value is for the race. So for this it's going to be 45 minutes, so if you do 45 times by 60, and that gives me 2700, and then if I divide that by the second equivalent of my lap, so 2 minute 30 is basically 150 seconds, so if I divide it by 150 it gives me dead on 18. Now as I've already said with regards to the weather, I'd say 43°C, but that's still pretty hot. But I assume that I'm going to be going quicker by the time we actually do the races. So the way I take it is I take however many laps it comes out, and then if there's any decimal at all added to the end of that, I take it as that I'll be doing basically the rounded up of that. So if it comes out as like 18.1 laps, I take it as it's going to be 19 laps. So I think the race length will be about 19 laps, and my iSpeed fuel usage is 1.076. So that means that in the tank I need 20.444 litres. Now I can actually filter that, I think. Annoyingly, I can filter 20.0, but I can't filter 21, so I'd have to filter 23.8. But that's okay. We'll go with that. Obviously, this is assuming that we're not going to have to stop, but we might. So there's that to contend with. Okay, so I wasn't 100% happy with pretty much sort of the mid corner handling. Now, what I'm going to do to compensate for that, well, I say compensate, what I'm going to do to try and fix that is I'm going to reduce the front camber slightly. So I'm going to go down to I'm going to go back to my 2.5 and see how that works for me. Now, the other thing with regards to this race, which wasn't a problem at Brands Hatch. At Brands Hatch, I was running 3 degrees of, well, I was running 2.5, and then around 3 for the time trial that I did. And the reason I was running more than what I normally would run was because the race was short, so I didn't really care that the tyres were going to basically be dead after 25 minutes because I wasn't going to use them again. But if we're going to go for 45 minutes, then it becomes long enough that it's worth considering that. Now I'm just change back to Imperial for a second here, because I was reading over on the forum, and there was some people who were suggesting that 31 to 32 psi works well for this car. Now, personally, I've been running the tires down at 25 cold, but as you can see here, I'm getting 28.9, 29.5, 30.4, 29.4. So I'm going to leave that as what I had them, it's 25 cold for now, and then I can always come back and experiment with that later, which I might do, but we'll have to see. Okay, so we'll just try that camber adjustment, and we'll see where that puts us. But I do also have to remember I now have more fuel in the back of the car. The other thing I'll just quickly mention whilst we're doing this outlap is I've had quite a few requests with regards to just doing a basic sort of how-to on Motec, so that will be coming at some point relatively soon. But basically because of my arrangements for next week, this'll probably be the last video for about a week or so, I think. But I will definitely, I'll have a think about what I want to include in that Motec video, and I'm also going to do a couple more adjustments explained type videos as well. And I can work on the content for those next week. I just won't be able to actually physically make and upload the video. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden there's like 2 or 3 or 4 in one go, or none for a while. Still got that oversteer. Seems a fraction better on exit out of the slow speed corners, but the high speed corners, well, we'll see, because turn 1's quite an anomaly in terms of corners, so we'll see around the rest of the lap. One thing I do have to be aware of is I have filled the car with more fuel now. So I can't necessarily take lap times as evidence that this camber adjustment has made me quicker. Even if it has made me quicker, it might not necessarily have done so. It might have just made me more comfortable with the car. I really hate that corner. I can tell that's just going to be my horrible turn for the week, I think. Pretty much how the second to last corner at Brands Hatch is. But yeah, the car is definitely more to my liking now. It's definitely got more understeer in it, and that's basically because I've reduced the amount of lateral grip we can get from the front. So I've shifted the balance rearwards. In terms of which axle can provide the most grip, if that makes sense. Okay, well the first lap out there was 4/10 faster than what I'd done previously, but that can't be taken as a direct. Oh, you made one change, all of a sudden it's now 4/10 quicker, because a lot of that will be me learning the track, and a lot of that will also be down to that I didn't get as much out of the tyres on my first laps as I am now doing. Dampers, I think, definitely need adjustment. If that is, you don't want to just take the mentality of avoiding the curbs, but that's not always possible. So I'll take a look into that. Okay, and despite the fact I have filled the tank completely, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just do a quick attempt at a pit stop, just so I know roughly what I'm dealing with if we have to make an in-race stop. No limiter in this car, remember. Just for sake of completeness, I'm gonna do a full stop here. So I just want to see what it's like in terms of tyres. Now I'm assuming if I did have to pit, I would have to take about 11 litres of fuel. But I'm also leaving the tyres on to see if I can actually take the tyres before the fuel's finished. It's close. This is 21.3 seconds, and that's the time it's going to be for tyres. Okay, so now the problem I've got now is obviously because I've just done that pit stop. Now the garage screen isn't going to tell me anything useful. But what I want to try is I just want to have a quick attempt with regards to just have a quick look at the dampers to see if we can make the car handle the last turn a little bit better, and the first turn as well, actually. So what I think I will do is what range of adjustment do we have here? Okay, so we can have from 0 up to 11. Okay, so I'm just gonna try 3 clicks of rebound all round. Now, the thing I would say about this is the reason why I'm making a reasonably, well, that is a large adjustment, in honesty. The reason I'm making a large adjustment here is basically so I can fully appreciate its effects. Because if I made a small adjustment, it might not be immediately obvious. Now, you might be wondering why was it that I changed the rebound and not the bump? And the reason I changed the rebound was because that sort of curb bouncing behaviour that we saw at a couple of places, and it's my thoughts that that's solely caused by rebound rather than bump. That said, driving over that curve there has pretty much just completely torpedoed that idea. But my theory on it was that pretty much it's because the wheel is just not controlled enough as it's coming back down. So it hits, it lands on the ground again, and then it basically just is completely not controlled. But that being said, for some strange reason, adding more rebound damping, which should slow the rate at which the wheel drops back down, appears to be creating even more crazy scenarios. But we'll try a lap with it anyway, just see what happens. We definitely seem to be not so hot with regards to those first couple of turns we've been through. I really do hate that corner. But yeah, I was really thinking that if I added more rebound damping, that would slow the rate at which the wheel sort of descended, and that would hopefully prevent that bouncing scenario. But at least currently that doesn't seem to have been the case. I mean, the opposite could definitely be true, in that sense that I've damped it so much that now the wheel is sort of just skipping and we're bouncing on the tyres. So I'll give it a lap and see, and then I'll try the opposite direction. It's definitely horrible through there. Reasonably interesting slide through there as usual. Okay, I'll just do the first turn and then turn to the problem corner. just to get a bit more of a read on this. Okay. Well, reasonably inconclusive if I'm honest. But let's take a look back. So let's just wind a bit further and let's watch the car through the final turn. And actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up the camera tool with Control F12, and then I'm just gonna pan us around to the side. Just want to see what the car's doing, really. Okay, it's definitely bouncing a lot. I mean, you can see that quite clearly. But it did look like the body is bouncing rather than sort of the whole car bouncing. Really, we should be looking at the other side through here. Okay, so the problem turn. It's definitely bouncing a lot. Okay. Well, what I'll try is to bring the bump in line. I'll also up the bump to 9 as well. Maybe we can get the body to be a bit more controllable. I'm really not sure why the crossweight keeps seemingly self-adjusting, but it's getting annoying. There we go. Okay. I mean, just from the camera movement, it's pretty obvious that the ride's now a lot firmer. Okay, so initially it definitely seems like the bumps made more of a difference than the rebound. The rebound seemed to screw things up more than it helped, if I'm honest. But the real acid test at Sebring here is the last turn. You just don't want to go too far on the damping, because then, yeah, sure, the body won't be bouncing around anymore, but that's because the whole car is going to be bouncing. You can also use spikes in RPM to kind of tell you if you have too much damping as well. because it means the wheel's obviously not conforming to the road quite so good. So what I'll do for the next run is I'll set all the dampers to 3 and see what that's like. At the moment, I strongly suspect that I'll just go back to 6 because 6 I was reasonably happy with. Okay. Yeah, if I'm honest, it's pretty inconclusive. In certain parts of the track, I thought 9 was better, but in others, I certainly wasn't in favour. But let's just take a quick look at how the body's reacting through the turn. There's definitely still some bounce, but it does look more controlled than before. So maybe somewhere between 9 and 6 might be worth pursuing. Or actually, I might be on the wrong lap. Let's have a look. This would have been the out lap here. Ooh, okay. Maybe not, because there was a lot of travel there. Definitely didn't look too stable there. Out of turn 1. This is the worst corner. Still a lot of oscillation. It's kind of weird because you really should be able to really crank that out with the dampers. Because what I'd expect is if you went really high on the dampers, that the body wouldn't be oscillating on the wheel, but like the whole car would just basically like bounce. In the sense of it would hit a curb and the whole thing would effectively jump, because the wheel and the body would be basically the shock would resist the movement so much that it would move the car as one, rather than moving the wheel up into the body. Then again, I do remember there was the comment that the old car made by one of my teammates that you couldn't really get enough damping in it. So I don't know if it's necessarily the same with this one. nice. I mean, that's really not great through there. And we can get a slow-mo of that, I think. Yeah. So you see, the body's really bouncing, sort of on that tire. Well, not on that tire, but above it. Now let's quickly fast forward around to the last turn, and let's do slow-mo of the last turn. See, this all looks reasonably controlled, and then we get to this part of the corner. Well, actually, it was actually good that lap. Because the previous laps we'd seen huge. Hold on. Is the tire getting slightly off the ground at that point? There. I'm sure the tire was slightly off the ground as the whole body sort of moved up. Okay, so just for comparison's sake, we'll try running everything at 3. Now, if this is the right way around, you should basically the whole thing should just basically be like a jelly. The car should just be bouncing, well, the body should just be bouncing all over the place. But the real purpose of what see, that annoys me. Why does the camber change when I change the stiffness of the dampers? That shouldn't make any difference. But anyway, what I'm really trying to find here is I'm trying to find the direction I want to go in. So if I prefer this to the 6 and the 9 settings, then what I'll probably try is something in between, maybe like either 4 or 5, or I might keep going further in this direction, but. I mean, that is assuming that the dampers are actually doing anything. Because every time I've hit that curb there, I've had exactly the same result from the car. Although it is a pretty big curb, so it's not inconceivable I could have ended up on the bump stop. The car definitely feels softer. The transient response is definitely slowed. Felt good through there. It felt like it was more planted than with the other settings. A lot of bounce through that turn then, but then again, that's the first time I think I've been really up on that curb, so it's hard to compare. What we could also do here is get out Motec and have a look at the damper histograms. Okay, grip was definitely better through there then. The large bumps definitely didn't upset the car as much. But we'll see about turn 1. Interesting. The car didn't seem as upset by the bumps, but I was back to getting oversteer at the back of the car again. Okay, that's going to look absolutely hilarious when we come back to that on the replay, because I'm pretty sure the back of the car was just bounced off the ground there. Well, I know for sure the lap's not going to be quicker, because I'm already 4/10 slower right now. And I just want another try at the final turn. But I don't really dislike the dampers at 3, aside from the comically hilarious sort of buckaroo impression I was doing in the 2-3-4 complex. I'm definitely more confident on the brakes through here now. And the back seems more predictable. I actually managed to pull a lot of that time I lost back. I'll just try that complex again, just to see what it's like. Since I think my line was probably to blame as well. Nah, lost a lot of time by avoiding that curb. Alright, anyway. So really, it's... I'm tempted to say the dampers at 3 are probably better for the first turn and the last turn, but then where we're at... I mean, let's just take a quick look at how it's handling through the final turn on the slow-mo. Is definitely more travel, and you see the oscillation lasts a lot longer. Like from the initial sort of impact, the body oscillates for much longer, and that's kind of what you're trying to control. You see how the body's still going here, really, despite the fact that not much was actually happening in terms of from the road surface. Anyway, let's go around to the buckaroo impression. Yeah, so the back right was definitely off the ground. It was probably definitely just the result of being way too much on that curb. So I can't really blame the car for that, to be honest. Okay, so I think we'll try one more thing before we'll before we'll leave it there, and we'll I'm tempted to I'm gonna put the dampers back at 6 for now until I've really decided. But the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try unhooking the rear anti-roll bar. Now, the theory of this is that by taking that bar out, I've reduced the roll stiffness at the back of the car, and in doing so, I should get more high-speed understeer, and so hopefully make that sort of turn 1 and the entry to Sunset, the final turn, a little bit nicer. It also might help here at Sebring because since if you guys watch my anti-roll bar video, and I was talking about how you are effectively tying both sides of the car together. So even if you're in a straight line and one of those wheels drops into a pothole or something, then the other wheel has no choice but to try and follow it. And obviously, if it's a different height on the road, it can't do that. So it gives it the effect that it's basically in a corner, which is obviously not very helpful if that's on the brakes into a turn and you're actually still in a relatively straight line. So if you have really stiff anti-roll bars, that can cause you a problem in those kind of scenarios, because you'll be disturbing a wheel that's not actually having any problems, but because it's tied to the one that is having problems, it has to try and, well, you induce twist in the bar. Conversely, obviously I'm still running a stiff front bar, but if I'm going to lose grip in the turn, I'd rather lose grip at the front of the car than the back. Okay, so we'll do the track guide here. Okay, so I'm going down a 4th and I'm braking at this dip in the wall. Then I'm turning in and I'm aiming for that orange cone on the top of the fence there. And then I get back on the gas. Pretty much that's a trial and error, but you want to run to that orange cone. Then I brake at the 2 cone here. Turn in pretty late, so I just clip the edge there. Same for the right. Then I go wide here, and I try and do the same thing again. The reason I'm trying to go wide there is because I'm trying to gain more speed onto the straight. And then coming into the hairpin, well, you hug along the inside of this curve, and then up to 5th, and then at the 3 cone I'm going to go down to 2nd gear. Again, staying pretty wide, then getting back on the gas as I can see the exit of the corner. Run over that kink because you don't pick up a 1x from it. Through here you might be able to stay in 4th, but you're in someone's draft, then you're definitely going to go to 5th. For here, down to 3rd, brake at the 3 cone. And now here you can full throttle, just try and get as close to the edges of the curbs as you can. Here down to 3rd at the 2 cone. Turn in late, try and not hit that inside curb, and then get back on the gas and up to 4th. Again, along here you're gonna be in a 5th, and then you're gonna want to go down to 4th, brake at the 2 cone again. Again, use the apex cones, try and hit both of those and this one. Down to 3rd, back on the gas. Use as much of this off curb as you can. 4th, and then you'll be in 5th approaching the final turn. And then I'll go down to 4th and then down to 3rd progressively, and I'm braking in between the 1 and the 2 cone. Point the car slightly right before I get on the brakes, just so it's sort of set up like that already. Okay, so down to 3rd. Get on the gas. I was a bit wider than I would have liked to have been there. And then, yep, up to the line. Not an amazing lap in terms of speed there, but it gives you the idea. Curiously, with the anti-roll bar disconnected, I always appear to be losing time in that first sector. I feel like I've got more confidence with the car, but the response has definitely slowed. Because there's inherently more roll in the car now. And it's really hurting me through here, as you can see. So I might have to put that bar back in just to get the performance back through those kind of corners. I'll try and do a better job at the final turn this time. So back's still trying to get away there, and the only thing I can really do now to affect that is literally just play with the dampers more. Okay. Alright, so actually, which were our quickest laps? 2:30.09. Now, what have we done to the car at that point? I believe that was with... This is actually something which I don't do, which I really should do more, is to actually... You have this notes page, and it's a useful thing to use to if you want to note down any quick changes that you made across setups. And so that if you do a multiple of changes and then you want to say revert a couple of them, then you'll know exactly what to revert and by how much and so on. Now, if I'm doing a really long setup, I do actually use that. But if I'm just doing a relatively small setup like this, I won't write down in there because I can just remember what I've changed. It's also important it's also the reason why it's important to only change things one at a time. Because as soon as you start changing things in multiples, then one, you cloud what the result of what you've done is, and two, you lose track of what you're doing. So you should really make the adjustments sort of one at a time, as I've said in previous videos, and then do a couple of laps and so on and so on. One thing I have noticed over this is you definitely see that there's differences with regards to tire pressures. I think what we'll do is we'll come back to that at a later date, and I might use this in a video I do about tire pressures, and try and even them up and experiment to find out what's best for the car. But for now, I think I'll leave it as that, and I'll just make sure to save the setup here. Also, some of you might notice that one of the setups in there isn't actually mine. That was William Levesque's that he uploaded to the forum. That was actually where I got the idea for the really extreme campers from, because to me, 3 degrees is a lot, but it did definitely work at Brands Hatch. But before I had a look at his setup, I was running 1.7. I mean, the car was fine with 1.7. It was good. It was still fast, but definitely got faster when I took it up to 2, then 2.5, and then finally 3. But yeah, okay, so I've got that saved now, and yeah, if you guys have watched this far, then thanks, and we'll come back to this at a later date.